Welcome to episode 2 of How to Invest in Real Estate. With me today is Emily Randall, also with the Home Marketing Group. I'm John Verdeau, who you met in the earlier episode. We're going to talk today about finding the right investment property. Probably the most crucial part of the investment process when you're getting started is making sure you're identifying the correct property. So we're going to start with talking about up and coming areas. Where are we investing? What areas are trending upward as opposed to either stabilized or overbuilt or oversupplied? So we're going to really focus on these areas that are up and coming. And so there's different ways of looking at this. And so Emily, when we're thinking about property and we're thinking about where we're going to invest, let's talk a little bit about what up and coming means.
So up and coming, there's multiple pockets around Knoxville that are up and coming, and the greater parts of Knoxville too. But I would say it first of all depends on what you're wanting to do with your investment. Are you wanting to keep it and rent? Or are you wanting to just flip it and do a quick sale? So it really depends on what the ultimate goal of that investor is to determine which location might be the first pocket to look at and consider. So, and also your budget is going to make a difference as well. Dramatically, of course, everyone knows you'll be able to get more for your money. But I think also that'll determine the location. And, a very large budget, you could buy a huge cabin in Sevierville. But you would also be getting more income from that. So it's kind of a balancing act. And I think we just have to start and figure out what the goals are for the investor.
Right. So it comes down to understanding the plan. So part of why I have Emily on this video is Emily is one of our top agents in the office, works with a lot of investors, and can sit down and understand, all right, what are your goals from buying investment property? Obviously, we're trying to build wealth. Obviously, you're trying to accumulate income and net worth. But really, what do you really want to do, and where do you really want to go? Where are you comfortable investing in? What areas of town? Emily can sit down, have those talks with you. She knows the market. And that really brings up an interesting point about knowing the real estate market. There's a lot of information online that you can look at, but really talking with somebody who is in the trenches every day, understanding what's going on in the market, what things are selling for, what things can sell for in the future, which is huge to know. Is really, really important. That's where Emily comes in. So Emily, let's talk a little bit about the market and making sure that, understanding the real estate market and really coming down to knowing all of this before you make that offer. Because as we know, your money is made mainly on when you purchase the property. If you purchase the property for the right price, you're going to have a good successful project.
Right.
The rents. What can this property sell for? That's also important when you're looking for that investment property. What's the future of this property after I do all the improvements? Knowing all that, it's important to be able to identify those things. Very hard to do on your own, especially when you're starting out. Having somebody have that input and that validation and feedback is important. The other thing you touched on too is finding those investment properties. So, where are we getting these? In today's day and age, it's a very competitive real estate market right now. Going online and trying to find investment properties is not very easy. And so somebody like Emily can be a bird dog for you. And I highly recommend having that. Is for most new investors, this isn't your primary job. You have something else to do. You're occupied with various things. If you have somebody in your corner that's actually searching for the properties for you on market and off market, it helps a lot. And that's where Emily comes in. She can be your bird dog. I think that's really, really important in the beginning and can come to you and takes the guesswork away from you and saying, well, I think this might be a good property. Emily can come to you and say, hey, look, this is what I found. Based on what you're wanting to do, I think this is a good option. We need to go look at it, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So other than that, are there any other sources when you're looking for property for people? What are some things that you're looking for, especially for investors?
I think part of it, not just looking online and looking, on the MLS or Realtor or Zillow, all those sites, but I think having, relationships with other agents out there in the market that, like you just said, it's a very competitive market. So having certain agents that I know get listings like that, they have me on speed dial. And they know that I have a plethora of investors that are very interested and ready to pull the trigger. So that's extremely helpful for all parties involved with that, to be honest.
Right.
But I think beyond that too, it's one of those things where I'm going to be the person to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And a lot of times when you don't have that other side, when you're just seeing the internet or you're seeing a website or someone's listing, it all sounds glorious. But then deep down under, there could be some underlying issues that, you could just not waste your time even looking at it. And so that's another thing that I'm very aggressive when it comes to getting those properties, in terms of getting you in there to see it ASAP, making a relationship with that list agent, becoming their best friend, and making sure you get all the information you need as quicker than anybody else. And all those, all come down to it being a long-standing relationship. And that's what I intend to do and what I've been able to do for numerous clients of mine. So.
Right. So like part of what we have at our firm is a database of people that are interested in selling their house, maybe not putting it on the market. Right. There's other things. There's other avenues that you can look at too. Tax auctions, foreclosure auctions as well. A little bit more complicated, a lot more in depth, and something that you would probably want to talk to us in more detail with. But there are other off-market avenues for investment properties in this area that you can really take advantage of. But again, having that guidance and understanding the details of it will give you the most tools to make sure you're making good choices, especially in the beginning, so you're not making the wrong decisions. So let's recap this. Finding the right investment property starts with knowing where to invest, where you're comfortable investing. If you're not comfortable investing in a certain area, then probably not even if it's up and coming, it's probably not the place for you, because you really need to be able to go to that property, need to be involved with it.
And I'll be honest with you about that too. If I don't feel comfortable showing it, I'm going to probably tell you. Yeah. That's another thing. If you see, people running to the house and things like that, that's a very good point, because that also, especially if you're not going to have a property manager or something, and you're going to be doing it yourself, because that's another thing we can talk about that people don't know what's the pros and cons. So, but that's a good point.
Yep.
So
obviously that knowing the market, knowing where the market is going, like we talked about, real estate is a very tangible asset. You have a lot of control over it. The market does move, and you need to be aware of that. Again, having somebody in your corner to be able to keep you involved in what's going on in the market, what's really happening in this market, not necessarily what you're hearing on the news, also important. And then knowing where to find them, where are the actual properties, and having those sources. So all those things are important to finding the right investment property. As you get more experienced with it, it becomes a little bit easier. But end of the day, it is a constant search, and it's a puzzle to try to figure out where these properties are. Emily, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
We appreciate your time.